Hey everybody, good day. We are H&D Abroad. I'm Herman.
And I'm Dee.
Absolutely is. We're so happy that you're here with us today. We're so glad to be here. We're always glad to show up here. We are. I just, I just.
He loves me in purple because it's my favorite color, and he knows I'm happiest when I'm in my favorite color.
But I'm also really excited by. Uh-oh, we need feedback. Hold on.
Yeah, let's figure out what's going on with our audio.
Just speaker up there.
Yeah.
Sorry
See.
about that. Hold on. Hello?
Okay.
All right, I can never quite tell.
Yeah, if you guys can put in the comments if you can hear us, if there is feedback. I always want to check in with you. Give us a shout as you join. So why don't we give a little bit of an update where we are while we're waiting for everybody to come in? Hey, sorry, teacher Nikki.
All right, so update. Um,
Well, we are 1 month out from getting our residency ready. So going back into those groups, doing my research, making sure I'm keeping up to date with all the changes that have happened. So as you guys know, we did 1 year of residency last year. So we are planning, all of those details. We're going to definitely share.
okay, so there's internet. Not sure
Okay.
now what that is. All right, so I'm gonna take our mic. Your phone on my phone is feeding into here. Hold on a second. I'm gonna stop my feed.
Okay. Let's see how that goes.
Turn that off. All right, we're getting some feedback. Volume
Okay.
is good as well. Okay.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks everybody for giving us those check-ins.
All right. We're having some feedback on our side. Hold on one second.
Do you guys hear? Okay, so if volume is good, do you all hear any extra? There we
Now we
go.
know what the problem was. All right.
Okay, that's what happens when you are multitasking and then you start your broadcast.
All
So
right.
we are ready to go. I was like, that didn't even sound right.
Okay, so let's start over. So we are a month away from getting our renewal
Yes.
and our renewal visas in Mexico. We are really excited about that. We are really doubling down on trying to make sure we have all the necessary information and documentation and understanding
and paperwork.
And for anybody who's done it, please make contact with us, especially if you've done it recently. Reach out to us because we're going to go facilitator less.
Yes,
we're gonna try
to get in there and do it ourselves. So Agent Grateful, I know you all did it. Hey Tracy, yes, girl, we're gonna see you in Mexico City.
We're gonna do it in Mexico City. That's where we did. That's where we did our first visa. So we're gonna do our renewal again in Mexico City. We kind of bounced around with that. So we got all the transportation.
Yeah, we did the easy stuff. So housing and transportation. But as we were thinking about one of our objectives was to have a couple of places that we have access to outside the US where we weren't just able to access it from a tourist visa, but from a hey, I want to have permanent residency or something that may lead to citizenship. So yeah, I mean, I feel like this conversation today about, are we asking the right questions? What are the move abroad questions? Kind of is coming full circle
Correct.
because we're, kind of coming back to some of our initial first steps. Does Mexico still check off
Hmm.
on our list of,
Hmm.
the things that are a part of our priority? So early in our YouTubing experience, we laid out why we want to move abroad. I don't think we ever did one on why Mexico was one of our cities, but you all have heard us talk about our
Right.
children.
Right.
We did an episode with Agent Grateful to talk about, maybe being somewhere that's accessible to our young people. Tracy Collins also has kids roughly our kids' ages. So, if they're not coming with us, proximity was important to us. But like, you could make, and that would be me, everything a decision point for before you leave. Your questions can have questions that can have questions. When are you asking the right questions, and when are you leaning into analysis of paralysis?
So here's some things. In the description, we said that there's the logical one of us and the free thinker one of us. And I think that it's important that I clarify what that really looks like. Okay. If you've watched us enough, you've heard Dee say she's the logical one. And I think that what needs to better be understood, we were discussing it last night, is where we use logic and free thinking in our processes. Because technically, it flips for both of us. I start off with what's the general information, and then I narrow down. Dee starts off with the narrow information and spreads out. It's mine's an information building. Hers is a safety component. A matter of comfort. Well, how much can I establish now at the beginning, and then how do I break out from there? I start more off with, this is a good idea, and where are we going? And as we get closer to the information, then I have to have all the specifics. It really narrows down. What is this? What is that? Why is this? And I think that that's been beneficial to who we are as a couple. You've heard us recount the situation of our visa process going to Mexico. Dee did the hard work. I'm not going to even pretend to act like she did all the hard work. She found out all the information. Now, mind you, I watched all the videos. I pointed her to some of the videos. She analyzed them in ways I didn't even think to analyze them. I just saw information. It was just narrowed it down. When we got on the ground, before we left, we went over those binders that she had created until I had them memorized.
If you've done that paperwork, we had to have it in triplicate.
And it wasn't for her benefit. It actually was for me. At that point, I was asking all the kind of questions. Okay, why did you do this? What is this instead of that? Okay, I know we did this. This looks like it's changed. All that was important to me. When we got on the ground and things got going and things went all over the place, I was able to be in place to help keep things moving. When she got bumped a little bit.
Ooh.
And
if you haven't seen that video,
and she got
where I was just bit. Like,
she wasn't out of control. It wasn't anything like that.
But this, y'all, was 24 hours before we were supposed to land, and I didn't have answers to questions.
Correct.
From a facilitator we had already paid.
And then when we got on the ground, facilitator got us moving, and then there was a mishap the day we were doing all the final approvals.
INM.
In line. and because I understood what was going on, I was able to drill down on what and that's just how we think. It's how we work. It's how we process. I come in slower. She's a bullet. Okay. I have a slow trigger and a big boom. She has a big bang and a slow glide. And that's been helpful to us. But what we've realized over the course of this year is that there are a lot of things we did not understand at the beginning. There were a lot of things we did not know to look for at the beginning. There were a lot of things that we've changed our minds about at the beginning. And there are a lot of things that the process and the places we looked at have changed what and how we're going about it. And so there are some standard questions, of course, that you have and you're looking at, and then you realize, okay, maybe there's a deeper level of some things we need to punch in at.
Yeah. So, okay. So if I could give advice from, the today us to the us from a year ago, these are the questions, or these are the areas. I won't say these are the questions. These are the areas where I would give sometimes a little bit more scope in understanding information that's communicated.
Okay.
And some that I would say, okay, you're giving me really, really narrow. I need to see how that looks inside the big picture. So we just kind of came up with a few. What I would like is those of you who are in the chat, those of you who have moved along the continuum of concept of, we can do this, to where we are. Come on, chime in with us. So go ahead.
Before we get started,
okay.
I briefly introduced us. If you don't know who we are, if you don't know who we are, if you don't know what we're talking about, Dee and I started our YouTube journey a little less than a year ago.
Yes.
But we started our move abroad journey over a year ago, the actual input process.
Yes.
This has been a process for my baby girl for a lifetime that she has allowed me to engage in.
Yes.
On this channel, we really desire to help Black couples see moving abroad as a plan A. That doesn't mean you have to. We're not trying to push you to it. We're not trying to convert you. We're just trying to say, hey, there are other options. There are other ways to look at life. There are other ways of advancement. For some people, that move abroad could be permanent. For some move abroad, that move abroad could be temporary. We want you to be able to see it, and we want you to be able to see it as we are making the journey.
Yeah, in real time.
In real time. We've not even decided where we're going yet.
Yeah, we haven't finalized.
I'm sorry.
We haven't finalized it, but yeah, like we're putting our feet on the ground, and like someone mentioned, sometimes you got to go with what you know and get going. So if that's things that you really are grappling with, if you want to see what it looks like, because we out here sharing real emotions, real jokes about, I cannot believe how when I go back and look at those videos, I was like, nobody gonna have control over my perception of my success. But you know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. So that's why we're getting in here and talking about it today.
So subscribe, like this video. You're sitting there right now. You all are here. I can see how many people are in the chat. I can see how many people are watching us. Hit like right now. It's 2 seconds. Just slide the cursor. Hit like right now. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell, because we go live every Saturday. Ooh, country. Every Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time. And we always enjoy you being here with us. This is a conversation. This is not Dee and I running up at the mouth, and this is a show to watch. This is a conversation. Put your questions in the chat. Put Q's before your questions so we know to make sure we try to acknowledge them the best we can. And if you have questions that you think we should be asking in this conversation today, add that as well, because we are a community and we do this together.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Okay, so why don't we start with the language question, since that's something that Agent Grateful brought forward. So what I realized in this process is, I'm moving to a country. Most of the countries that we're looking at, English is not their primary language. So I'm going to have a language deficit. We should start with, and this is what we've heard from other people, I need to know where I'm going so I can start learning the language as soon as possible. What actually has happened, as we've looked at, as you probably noticed, we have a lot of Spanish speaking countries that we've brought forward on our channel. And then I found out even within countries, there is regional variations on a common language, which kind of threw me. I mean, there are things that you know, but then, you know, the reality of it. So when one of the questions, the right question would be, I need language training from a native speaker that is native to the region I'm considering. Because it gives you the added advantage. Yes, I want to have language, but if as I'm getting closer to selecting where we're going, I want to make sure that I'm working with a native speaker to the place. So I should not have a Spanish language instruction tool or tutor that's in Mexico if we're going to Valencia, Spain.
Agreed. Here's a challenge question. Does that mean you wait? Or do you take a chance with the Spanish that you have and try to learn some anyway?
Well, I mean, and that's why Agent Grateful's statement is so important. Language, get what you can. Start somewhere. And I think everybody can grow from that. Because do you see where you could kind of go off on the deep end on one side or the other? Well, I can't learn anything because I don't know where I'm going. And then does it make sense to start learning something that may not fully be applicable?
So I don't know if it would be beneficial. And again, this is me guessing. I don't know if it would be beneficial to learn Spanish and then decide to go somewhere where they speak French.
There is that.
I don't know if that would help you unless you just really want to learn Spanish and you'll get to the French when you get there. That's okay. But if you've been saying Mexico, 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 and that's what next week we're moving to Paris, you might have a bit of an issue.
Because the investment, people want to invest. So but sometimes country selection might need to be further up your list if knowing the language is important. I put the question up about INM or the immigration office, even just a slightly elevated level of Spanish might have been helpful, like when we went upstairs to do the biometrics.
So
cutting down on some of the frustration by the officials.
So the three of us go to we're at the point we're getting our doing our fingerprinting and getting our cards, and we all sit down to different agents. And I can hear each of their agents ask them, do you speak Spanish? And they said no. And they jumped right in with them with whatever Spanish, English they could flow through. The young lady sitting across from me asked me if I could speak Spanish. I said very little, and she was upset with me for the remainder of the interaction together. And it was the only time I'd ever run into that the whole time we were there. She was, and I don't think it was me specifically. I think she may have bumped into that because her English was very limited. And so she did a lot of pointing at me. She did a lot of pointing, and then she spoke to me as little as possible. I wasn't upset. I was a little embarrassed. I was a little disappointed. I'm not sure how much more Spanish I could have known that would have appeased her. But I also recognize that I probably could have been a little more forward with what I was trying to work on. I got 30 days.
Baby, Rosetta Stone will be heavily used
to get
again.
some more basic language down between now and then, so I'm gonna be beyond know and see. Yes, I'm gonna be, because I think it's just a respect issue, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be fluent a long time. I had 2 years of high school, a full year of college, and I speak the equivalent of because I haven't found the way that works best for me.
And I just one more piece to the language. I have shared that even with the limited Spanish that I went with, because I did spend a couple of months before our first visit, I was timid to use what I did have.
Mm-hmm.
And I've shared, there were two ladies, we were walking in Blanco, and um, and they had some yarn. And I was like, there's a yarn store. And I could have
And I was like,
used my
ask
broken
them, ask
Spanish.
them.
And I was just
Yeah.
like, I'm so embarrassed. Baby, we're going to get out here and embarrass ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if I can laugh at myself, I'm pretty sure other people are willing to laugh at and with me. But what I have learned and what was confirmed during our first trip was that the effort
Mm-hmm.
is seen as respectful,
Mm-hmm.
and that they will try, especially when they see that you are trying. And so that's the position. Instead of, I've mentioned this, especially on my self-care Thursdays, is perfection is your enemy on this journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if I'm waiting to speak perfect English, or as Dr. Linda is saying, if I'm afraid to use the language that I know, then I'm defeated. But also I know when we're in country, it's going to get better because I'm going to use it every day. I'm going to hear it every day. So I'm giving myself a little bit of grace on the language question.
And I had less fear. I was just like, I'm gonna look like a fool. Let's go for it. Because my thing, by nature, I am a question asker, because I learned early, you don't know if you don't ask. And what I felt confident is in my ability to partially read through some of the things. So a menu, read through language, pronounce it in general, because I have an idea of what it is and what I'm doing. My concern is when I walk up into a space and I don't know what's happening here and I don't know what to address here. And Google Translate and I tight like butter. we were friends.
Which means we got to go to places that have good internet.
Okay.
But
it was let's take a chance on it. I'd rather we make a fool. And I had a lot of good laughs with people who were just like, okay, man, stop trying. What do you want? Point to it. Point. And for me, that spoke to me a lot about Mexico in the high end of some of the places I would choose, because here were people standing across from me who clearly could have said, go away. Like I had a guy tell me, I don't speak English, go away. And okay. And that's fine. I mean, I understood if I wasn't going to speak Spanish to him full out, but that was so rare and so nominal. And even in that, I didn't feel angry or he was rude. He was just like, I don't have that. I can't help you. That's not his responsibility.
If you know of, let's see, so we encountered a Spanish language class in Puerto Vallarta. If you know of others in Mexico City, Merida, Querétaro, San Miguel, I mean, there are a lot of places that we have had contact with. If you're doing conversational Spanish, Cervantes Nikki has put out there. Yeah, I want to be able to practice either with those groups. A lot of times will be with native Spanish speakers who want to practice their English, and native English speakers who want to practice in a safe space with Spanish speaking folks. So I know Tracy is in the chat as well. So if there's something in Mexico City, let us know, because that is super beneficial. We're going to be doing a few things while we're there. So I'm actually making a checklist. I need to order something in Spanish. Y'all, yeah.
I need to get
I
directions in Spanish.
I I used my debit card so I wouldn't have to make change. Y'all, I'm telling you, the fear is
and,
real.
and here's the funny part: the money was easy for me. The money was easy for me. Again, what I'm learning is the interactive part of language works for me. The hearing and translating part for me is where I have the difficulty. Reading it, fine. Choice words, seeing it on the wall. But when somebody's trying to hold a conversation with me, my brain just slows down.
So we will start talking about, once we choose a place, about language learning styles. I know we've got a couple of people in here that speak multiple languages. I won't call all of them out, but thank you, Dr. Linda. There are people. So there's reading, there's being able to speak a language, but then there's also, once I am spoken to, can I translate it from Spanish to English? Think about how I want to respond in English, translate it to Spanish, and speak it. I remember this learning French in high school, and that process, I know, gets faster when you have to use it, when you are, when you're on the ground. So there's definitely the language of the country, that, the dominant language that's known about the country, and then also the regional differences. I think probably another area around that same thing is when you're watching videos. This was one. I didn't like Spain, so I moved to Portugal. You were not in the whole country of Spain, just like you don't live in the whole United States. There are differences within the cities, the colonias, the states that make up a country. And so, just kind of having some perception about, when you're watching YouTube or when you're hearing people, talk about a place, that you are remembering the context. So if you're in a big city, and it's gonna be loud, y'all. If you're congratulations, Mexico Independence Day. I believe it's either today or tomorrow, but I know it's a whole live situation.
Oh yeah,
down in Mexico right now. And to just kind of think, people saying, well, it's always loud, or young people, college students come, and they're really loud, and the bar scene is really noisy. You have to think about the context in which they're speaking. When people are talking about it's expensive, it's expensive in Cote d'Ivoire. Okay. Where are they referencing that? Is it the entire country, or is it in the major cities? You want to have, when you're thinking about your question about money, and the cost of living, I want to make sure that what I'm vetting, even within those apps that give you cost of living, they're asking you to get down to more than just the country level. So definitely be aware of that.
As Americans, we see America as the country, and each one of our states are part of the country. Now we have our differences and battles, state to state in the country. When we leave, we're Americans, and they see us as Americans. But as much as Africa is a continent.
Let's start with that.
Africa is a continent, and in it are several countries. And the differences within each country vary from one side to the other, from one region to the other. India is north, south, east, and west. And each of those 4 regions are completely different. And within each region, north, south, east, and west, in each region is different. And in each region, each city, and in each city, each neighborhood. So you have to remember that when you're in a space, that you have to be sure if you are narrowing down to an area, understand that area. That doesn't mean don't examine the whole country. That doesn't mean don't examine the whole continent, but double down all the way down to the city that you're going to live in, because the history of those places is so rich sometimes that it varies from one street to the next, from one village to the next, from one township to the next. And we take that for granted because my neighborhood is just like the next neighborhood. It's just like the next neighborhood. It's just like the next neighborhood. My city is just like, it's Alabama. All these cities are the same, in my opinion.
I'm not going to touch that.
In my opinion.
I'm not going to touch that.
But Alabama is not Mississippi, is not Georgia, is not Kentucky, is not Florida. It's not. And we take for granted those things because we all speak the same language. We all, look, generally somewhat the same. We all, our process is the same because it comes from a central area through to us all. That is not, in general, the process and the lifestyle and the format in other countries. And you need to be prepared to really understand where you're going. That affects finances. That affects language. That affects culture. It affects how you interact with people. It affects shaking hands, not shaking hands, staring people in the face, whether or not your woman should speak out loud to them or not. All of those things have a big deal with. And you can't just say, well, this is who I am and I have freedom and I'm going to walk in here and this is how I do it because I'm an American.
That right there. Woo. Okay. So Servant Teacher Nikki asked about, you do have to think about your personality. When we were in North Africa, I had to be aware. Could I be in a country where I wasn't seen fully unless you were standing next to me? And I could tell the difference when I would go into shops alone versus or presenting myself at a taxi stand with my spouse. It was, when you can get a perspective about a place, and I think it was stark there. I probably look over it in my home country. So when you're thinking about your personality, and I'm talking about my personality in this move abroad and my husband's personality, it could be really easy to be frustrated by just our personalities. But you're thinking about how we can leverage, and that's what I feel like we are gaining some ground, is sometimes I need his slow it down, explain it to me, because there are things I think I might know because I've rounded it out with some information from a variety of sources. It's almost like when we were homeschooling. And so our approach to homeschooling was each of the children would read their lesson and then they were responsible for teaching it back. They were responsible for teaching the rest of us that part of the chapter or, about that country or whatever we were doing, geography or whatever, math or whatever. So when you look at it from that perspective, I needed to be able to answer your questions, which made me question. Sometimes, I got a conflict with a country. That's probably not going to be my place. That's probably why we've split along some lines when it comes to countries he feels comfortable in and countries that I don't.
And sometimes the question may not be, are they rude? Are they aggressive? It's, what are my expectations of what my rights are when I leave this space? When we got off the plane, when we got out of the taxi, You, myself, and the two ladies that were with us. When we walked into the hotel, we got in the elevator door closed. At that point, we had met men at the airport, men in the parking lot, men at in the parking lot of the hotel, men in the lobby of the hotel. We got onto the elevator, and I turned to these ladies and said, "Speak clearly, speak firmly, speak directly to their eyes, tell them exactly what you want." Okay? More so than male, female, they were responding to assertiveness.
Mm.
And too often, we mistake assertiveness with aggressiveness. You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to be, harsh, but you need to say, this is what I'm saying to you. This is what I'm asking you. I need this information. This is what you need to give me, which turned out to be beneficial when it was time to check out the hotel.
Ooh.
Okay? A process that she had to do alone because I wasn't there, because I wasn't on the billing. Okay. And so that was beneficial to us not having to come back later and find our money and get our money, to stopping some of the things, because you have to say, but you have to also recognize where you are. And do you feel comfortable exerting that personality?
I'm telling you now, I'm leaving an exhausting society. And I don't want to have to lean into that, what I would consider to be the more aggressive part of my personality, to be heard, to be seen, to be respected, to have a level of service that, that is considered, the standard customer service perspective. I don't, it would feel exhausting, and that's not why I'm moving abroad. And so some of what we're talking about is asking the right questions, is not just going out to look for the right questions. What are the questions you're asking in yourself? So I feel peace. Is this just a calm place, or can I move about in the space with peace that doesn't, where I don't have to, I don't have an adrenaline. I have to have the adrenaline to kind of hype myself up, with, put on armor. I mean, it's just, I know that's part of my personal question to myself, is when I ask, can I live in a space? Can I live free? Can I breathe? These are emotion-based questions that I'm seeking within myself, as much as I'm going out and looking for information and kind of checking off, can I do certain things? Does this country have certain things? I'm also moving into myself.
Professor LCH, this is an excellent statement. We say continuously, visit a place like you're going to live there. We often visit places or scouting trip places that we scout like vacationers. You're not going to be at the hotel. You're not going to be at the pool. You're not going to be in the restaurant every day. You all are too poor for that. You all are too poor for that. Y'all don't have that kind of money. Okay. And so we are excited by the vacation, and understand that they are pandering to the tourist that you are. When you come and say, I'm going down here to market and I'm gonna stay here a couple of weeks, and I'm gonna go down here and I'm gonna cook my own food, and I'm gonna buy some of my own food, and I'm looking for my Old Bay and Old Bay, and people are using your Lowry seasonings, and it's not there, and now you got to cook, and you trying to feed 5 of y'all that you brought on this trip, and you bought this bird that's not the bird you buy at Sam's. It's not the Sam's chicken. It's the real chicken. All these things we take for granted because we're looking at them from the I live here perspective, from the vacationing perspective, and I think that changes a whole lot of questions in terms of how you look at it.
So Destiny is in the chat, and I'm hoping we have a beautiful community. So if you all can lean into the question, we're going to read portions of Destiny's uh, statements about, where do you start? So, I mean, you've got are we asking the right questions? But like, where do you start? Where do you start as a couple? How can you come together? Let's say we're probably going to qualify this on he's okay with moving abroad. I'm okay with moving abroad. Like, what's our first step? And I think what I think helped us to turn the corner is when I said why it was important to me to move. What experience do I want to have in my life that the move abroad process answers clearly, that is different from the life that I could construct here in my country of origin. I think too often we could be at odds about the where. And so I leave the where over there.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that is where we are, if that is a friction point, I think when we started getting on, when you could see why it was important to me,
Mm-hmm.
when I could share a plan,
Mm-hmm.
not here's the ironclad plan, I need you to buy into this,
Mm-hmm.
but can you see this? And I'm listening as you share what you think about this that I'm putting out there. I am not in this to fight my partner.
Correct.
I'm not in this to fight. And I think it took several years for me. Okay, so I think I was just saying it and he was like, yeah, that would be nice. And then I was just like, but don't you hear me? And I was like, oh, what I need to do is knee to knee, eye to eye, heart to heart.
That's important. That's important. Men speak. We can go one of two ways, Destiny. And that is we both want to go, but we both want to go different places. Or the you person wants to go and the other person doesn't understand why that's a big deal. Or what are our reasons? And all those things can become a swirling point of confusion and questions. Do you want to is where you start. I'd like to, and I'd like to because. Are you interested? And if you are, because. A lot of the women I watch in this process, my wife included, are based in dreams. That is, they are based in things they've seen, expectations they have, hopes, move forward to whatever. A lot of the men in this process are, I'm tired of being a Black man in this country. I don't want to do that anymore. That is a really heavy undercurrent. That is a, I don't want to fight this fight like this anymore. Where else can I go where I can be treated better than I'm being treated right now? Sometimes I think that sounds simplistic because but then where do you want to go? We have that conversation a lot. And sometimes the answer is anywhere but here. It's almost like I'd rather be homeless than live in a house where people mistreat me. Even if I can't afford to be in another house, I'd rather be homeless. And it's almost like I'd rather be a foreigner wandering in somebody else's land who's nice to me than to be at my home and they mistreat me. And so the specificity of a place is not always foremost in sometimes in our mind as men. And also there's that logical side.
I was about to say there are some men,
but there are some who say,
you know, I have a I have a dream too.
Yeah.
That one day, you know, I can be in a society that mirrors, the ideals that I have for family, for the family structure, how affordability, whatever he puts forward. And what the approach that I'm not saying that this is the right approach.
Correct.
Is that H said, if we're going anywhere, we need to consider Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that wasn't necessarily on my it was on my full list, but not necessarily, on at the top of my list. As he started doing the research and bringing things back, we would schedule not like in an appointment, but we regularly have time where we talk about the places we would like to go, what we've learned about the residency process, the things that would get us from being a tourist to being in a place, things that research tells you,
mm-hmm.
and not just what
mm-hmm.
I hope or desire.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that space, from a relationship skills standpoint, is I'm listening to the words, but I'm listening to your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Just as I hope that he hears my words and hears my heart, asks for clarity for what he doesn't understand. If the goal, so a lot of this process for couples is a pull. Sometimes it's a push. Sometimes it's a push-pull. The goal is to find, for me, I'm hoping for us, is to find places that bring joy to each of us.
Correct.
That if we need to consider, instead of finding a place for the rest of our lives, that we try a few places so that you see I'm invested in your dreams.
Correct.
That your dreams matter to me. I wouldn't be married otherwise.
You have to see the big picture. There are places on the list sometimes that are emotional, that are based on expectations. Africa just made sense. I mean, if we're going somewhere, we're going somewhere. I heard somebody say recently, where people look like me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Africa made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Black people are there, our heritage is there, our life, our family, even though we are also in every other culture across the planet. But this is our homeland. This is where we started. What I'm gathering about the information is several things that are important to me. I married an American Black woman. And because I married an American Black woman, a Southern American Black woman, places she can be comfortable are important to me, where those places are and how they are going to respect who she is. I don't expect her to change when we move somewhere. I expect her to be the woman I married.
Baby, I'm going to make collard greens and fried okra in Thailand. I expect
her to be the woman I married.
I'm going to enjoy hot sauce
and if she
across the globe.
If Dee has to alter who she is in a space to fit the culture of the space, then no matter how great the space is, for me, it's not a good space. Because then I don't have my partner with me, which means, as I said to her last night, the building is nothing. This is home. And if home is not with me, then what's the point? Okay. And I believe that she feels the same way. If I'm going to go somewhere and I'm going to only feel safe when she's walking with me, because they see me as, It's like the dude who couldn't get dates in college until he had a girlfriend and everybody wanted to talk to him. It's like I'm only a safe person. I'm only a because they see, oh, I'm with someone. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be just the black guy. And so those kind of conversations are important.
Yeah. Okay, so we've said this so many times. The move abroad conversation specifically is a continuous.
Mm-hmm.
It's a continuous. Mm-hmm. We shared with you all about, look, we were saying literally the same words over and over again. And then one day I said, oh, take care of doesn't mean I'm deficient. It means I want the caring
of the
to
providing,
to be able to be, I want to be a sufficient carer for you and not you need to be taken care of.
And we struggled through that for 2 whole years as 20 from 20-year-olds to but because the understanding is important to that and the time spent doing that. And this one right here.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm not an expert, Destiny.
I'm so glad you're in this space. And I know your husband, if you can bring him back to this spot.
This is where I'm sharing this as a human male. Gotta hear it. Now, mind you, ladies, don't get me confused. I'm not talking about pounding in. I'm talking about take a step back. How could I say this differently? Take a step back. How can I say this differently? Because sometimes just the language that is the male mind and the female mind are just different in processing what information is. And you have to be prepared for the possibility that this is not his time. Sometimes it's as simple as that. And
true.
That's hard.
True.
It's not as hard. And if we as men take on a lot of things that are responsible. You hear me say this all the time. What are my kids doing? How will my kids be safe? How will you be safe? What would this look like that I recognize, that I don't recognize? I had a friend who in her younger years married an older man. When they became older, at the time that she and I were associated, we were in our middle to late 30s. He was right up on 50. She was doing master's degrees and looking at going to school and doing other things. And their kids were teenagers, late teenagers. And he was a little frustrated with his workplace. He was frustrated with that he wasn't moving past anything, that they were moving past a certain level. And now they wanted to require a certain level of education. And she was like, he ought to go to school and he ought to do this. And I said, okay, and all the time that you've known him, including before you got married to him, at what point in time was school a priority in his process? And he's at a point in his life where he's wanting to maximize what he has and move down. You're asking expectations of people who aren't, that's not their focus of life. And sometimes you have to figure out what makes that important.
Yeah. So, like we said, we ain't trying to be no marriage expert. We're not trying to be, but the whole love languages. So the 5 love languages, I love, but I want to love you in a language that you understand. It's as we were talking about languages. So, if gifts is how you understand that, it's not just financial. It's, I know what matters to you is the gift of my undivided attention. That is a gift that I can give to you that will validate you as a person. Not saying that that's his particular gift. I'm just using that as an example. The process is not a one and done. Like, you're not choosing a forever. You're not choosing a forever country. So I feel like the scouting process gives you an opportunity. It's almost like somebody said it. I think it was Anita. She was like, I'm out here dating countries. We're going out here to date these countries together. What do you like? What do you not like? Where do you want to go? What kind of experience do you want to share with me so that I better understand your place? So we had the couple on for Rwanda. It's seeming like, you just, I think that this process is meant to evolve, but also peel back some layers. Oh, I am finding, with a little bit of disappointment about things about myself that I thought I had a little bit more control over, but also that I don't need to have control over every single piece. Herman's willingness, I started with valuing that.
Wow.
I started with valuing exactly where he was, that he was willing to say, you know what, I'm going to step out of what I know. We didn't know anybody doing it the way I was suggesting. So there was really, we're talking about, y'all, this was before YouTube. Yes, we're old, okay? There was no YouTube. But what I did know is with connection, that we could effort into a process and find our way. Okay. So, I mean, I got other things on the list, like walkable. Can you put one foot in front of the other? There are some places, and I know Tracy and I have talked about it. I've talked about it on her channel before. Walkability in Mexico City. You can put one foot in front of the other, but I had taken some high heel sandals. And that was high heel destruction. So yeah, I mean, when I look at, and I'm looking at walkability as a 50-year-old, that if I were going to be in a country, could I continue with accessibility? So when I look at a Lisbon, that has very little. That is, you can walk places. Uphill both ways is not where I think I want my 60, 70-year-old body to accommodate those challenges. We were saying we didn't see people with disabilities in Mexico City, because I was just like, how would they navigate the sidewalk where the tree is in the middle of the sidewalk? Like they would have to drive into, there are no curb cuts. You'd have to drive into the street.
So we recognize that some of our now places are not going to be some of our later
forever
places.
Yeah.
And that is a part of the travel. I think one of the challenges, and I could be wrong, but I think one of the challenges people have in this move abroad process, is we look at things in finality. We as Black people, I'm being specific, we go some places, we nail down, we plant, we pitch our tent, and then we build the bricks around it, because that's where we plan to be. And seeing the world as a continual living space. It doesn't mean, we've talked about having a home base, having a place where we like to come back to the most. And for some people, it will still be the States. But you spend time, reasonable time, moving around the world, and not like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years. You spend time living somewhere else, being a part of the communities of the world. And therein lies, I think, some of the conversation is, I want to move to, and somebody is going, I'm seeing myself wanting to be there the rest of my life. Sometimes the conversation, it can be as simple as that.
Yeah. So I wanted to, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, another question about, kind of asking the right questions. People will ask, and this is experiences from looking in the different Facebook groups, the different, passport groups, move abroad groups, is, well, where is the easiest place to move? That
That's a hard
I
question.
mean, you got so many variables in the
Yeah.
easy,
Yeah.
in the easy realm. So I wrote out a couple. You know, when you're trying to define easy, is that affordable?
Mhm.
Is that, you know, somewhere I can move to fast? Is the visa process or the residency process clear to understand, easy to understand? Like, you don't have to, you know, some countries you have to have a facilitator because baby, there's all kind of stuff going on in the background that we take it for granted here in the States. This is just one example. The website tells me what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of countries in the world that the
Mm-hmm.
website is the last place you're going to get the most up to date information.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You know, if you're saving time, you're going to spend more money. It may take more effort.
Break that down.
So we were talking about, you know, I could pay a facilitator.
Okay.
That's that's going to be less effort necessarily on my part. I'm gonna be putting out a lot of money,
Okay.
but I want to save time. I'm gonna pay the people who know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If I've got time, if I'm on the ground, then I'm gonna save a little bit of money. So easy is different, you know, can be described differently for
Some people enjoy the work of doing it themselves.
I did until I did this.
Some people enjoy the work of doing it themselves. Some people are going to be, I need to minimize as little of me making a mistake as possible.
I don't like to go back 6 times.
Yeah, I'm the guy who we're on the road. We will never be lost because I'm gonna pull over at the gas station because you need to tell me right now where I'm going. I don't want to be wandering around for hours trying to prove I know where I'm going. If I don't know, I don't know. And so we have had the whole conversation about whether or not to continue with the facilitator. We still may decide to do that. And Tracy, we may still contact you about who to use because that information, if D and I can sit down and really flush out what the process looks like, and we really can get understood, this is where we're going, this is how we're moving, this is this step, this is I mean, we can really have it written out so we know where we're going. I feel really confident in our ability to make decisions on our own. I fully do. At the same time, if it's going to cause stress and frustration and time, is that extra little bit of money spent worth not having that headache? Let's see. Agent Grateful, I just got my work visa here in Mexico. I paid the facilitator and got it done in 3 days. I have a friend that speaks fluent Spanish and they're doing it on their own and been denied 3 times. Yeah, see, that makes me nervous. That makes me nervous. I, I don't want to bump heads with reality and trying to prove that we can do something. At the same time, I don't want to put off our ability to challenge ourselves a little bit. What we have to look at and be real about is we don't have 3 weeks to give, 4 weeks to give, to sit around. We are employed working adults with bills to pay, with a limited time frame in country to be able to get our visas and come back. With that being the case, is a facilitator going to be more helpful? I want Dee to see this comment. Agent Grateful. They said they got theirs done in 3 days with a facilitator. They got a Spanish freaking friends who've been denied 3 times. We are really still having the conversation about a facilitator. It is going to be a heavy out of the pocket expense that, truthfully, I'd rather not have.
Yeah. Yeah. It's either time
Or money.
Or money.
And
because we have limited time,
We might need to spend
We
the
might,
money.
we're willing to spend the money for the expertise. But this time I'm gonna try. Because I was just like, I brought all those documents myself. But I wanted the
We're going to prepare the documents as we're doing them themselves. I'm going to have a few facilitators in the Rotary.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
reach out to you, Agent Grateful, for sure. Peace of mind. Baby, you can.
But understand,
if I can pay for peace of mind.
Understand, these are the conversations we have, because at different points in this conversation, we're stubborn. And that is the transparent honesty, because there are parts of it like, I don't want to be bothered with, and sometimes we get caught up on the history of the experience instead of the preparation for what's happening. The last experience we got through in a timely manner, but a lot of it was done by us. And the interaction with the facilitator
was disappointing.
Did not go as smoothly as we would have liked. Okay. So there's a natural reaction to say, if I did all that myself the last time,
I may as well
do it myself. But we also recognize the little things that this facilitator did.
Nuances.
That if we had to take care of them, I didn't want to spend time trying to figure that out and where to go to do all that. So we have to have, again, we within 30 days. So trust me, we're making decisions fast.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that easy question got out there, in the universe, because easy, cheap. Ooh, y'all, that word just, affordable is the word that exudes respect for a space,
right,
to me. And so affordability is individual. I mean, it is a subjective concept. There are people with rooftop gardens and, penthouse living. That lifestyle is affordable to you. I still got to work. I still have, we still have financial goals. So affordability is different. So when you are looking at someone answering some of these questions, you want to, or even reviewing videos where people are sharing their budgets. Is that budget from a year ago when we did the Ecuador? What
does Ecuador cost?
Yes, yes. Ecuador costs what? We were talking about real time. Okay, she pulled that ketchup right out the cabinet and said, "This is what it costs."
And understand that everybody's budget is not the same. Everybody's budget they're showing is not your budget. There are those of us living right here in the United States with $1,500 rent, $1,800 mortgages, $2,200 rents and mortgages that we can't afford right now. So just because somebody shows you a mansion for $1,800 in another country doesn't mean you need to go spend $1,800 in another country when you really can't afford that $1,800 here.
Right.
You have to be real with yourself about what, if we can spend somewhere around $7, $8, less $100.
Hey, but I want to see what $7, $8 or less looks like.
But yes, it still has to meet the criteria.
My quality standards.
Yes. Quality standards. Yes.
Some other areas when you're looking at, and we're just going to throw those concepts out, is are people talking about citizenship? Are people really talking about residency? So usually there's a tourist visa level. There's a residency level, both temporary and permanent. It could be called something different based on the country. And then there's citizenship, where you are passport accessible. So thinking about, am I really, am I trying to get citizenship somewhere? That was the first hurdle that I had to get past, was I don't have to get citizenship. Like, just the whole understanding that, residency is where you can be in a country long term. There's temporary, there's permanent. Like, that just blew my mind,
Mhm.
so that I could now ask the internet, as somebody said, Beyonce's internet.
I'm leaving that there.
Ask Beyonce's internet the right questions, then I can get responses that really mesh with sometimes my budget, the realistic amount of time that I
Mhm.
want to spend in a country. Because, you know, there are some countries where people are still doing what they call border runs. You get a tourist visa for, for 180 days, for 90 days. You can go across the border and then come back. More and more countries are saying that that's not Costa Rica. There,
Mhm.
you can do that. You
Mhm.
can do that, but so you want to realistically think, okay, am I really only trying to do 90 days here? That's the question. What can I do? What kind of life can I build? What kind of experiences can I build to understand a country better in 90 days? You don't need to be trying to stay in Ecuador 21 months when you're not really wanting to be there more than
21 months. There is still a lot of confusion between the visa, the residency, and citizenship conversation, because again, they're in a lot of the ways we use it. We use those words synonymously. I'm a resident of. I am a citizen. We tend to look at it synonymously,
Mm-hmm.
and actually, in getting residency around the world, we're looking for places for which we have the option to live at a moment's notice. I currently, I currently am not exploring citizenships. Currently, doesn't mean that I won't. Currently, I'd like to have a lot of visa options. I'd like to have the option to pack my bags and flow to a different space and be in that space, and legally be in that space.
Yes, legally.
Legally be in that space. So if I get caught there, I'm not trapped there because I can live there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that part has a lot to do with the confusion in the conversations. Is there's a difference between residency and citizenship.
Another area, we talked a lot about healthcare for ourselves if we were bringing our parents with us. So, the questions about healthcare are pretty high on our list.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we're looking at conversations about healthcare, a lot of people are talking about it's affordable to pay out of pocket. Some of the things people are doing are very affordable out of pocket, but if you have several of those, will that cumulative cost
Mm-hmm.
begin to
Mm-hmm.
encroach on your monthly budgeting?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're looking, I have learned over this year that listening to the conversations, there's some out of pocket money I need to, kind of have set aside.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I'm probably going to be looking at how do I get access to the public health care if that's something that I want to approach. There's usually that's for your residency level folk to citizenship. So if you're trying to access the public health care, then you're needing to back your visa into
Mm-hmm.
that access.
Mm-hmm.
And then private insurance. I was just on a panel discussion today about Medicaid access. And in the United States that unless you are with an employer that makes health insurance available, then US citizens, unless they're pregnant or have a disability, they don't have any healthcare coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And those who work can't afford the coverage that is the coverage that is available can be unaffordable, can still be out of reach. When I look at what it would cost us, no, when I took my my career break, I paid under FMLA, I was able to pay for my health insurance out of pocket and still have my employer pay their portion.
Mhm.
That amount is what most people are paying for the whole year. And I was only off 3 months.
Right.
So,
Right.
when you're looking at, okay, maybe I don't want to do private insurance, get into the details about what the reality of the private insurance options are, working with the broker, because it could be more, it could be death by 1,000 cuts, which is sometimes I feel like the out of pocket conversation, but some visas require that you get health insurance
Mhm.
with them. So just those are the conversations around healthcare that will inform either how is this a country that's right for us? Am I asking the questions
Mhm.
that help me to line up the what I would consider these are just basic, these are basic areas. Um,
We, yeah,
and
we've had some really detailed conversations with some really important people on this channel who have shared some really detailed information about healthcare in the countries in which they live. Aging Grateful, Living
Mhm,
Loving Abroad, Jewel
mhm,
and Jean Wren.
mhm.
I can go on and on, but they are giving very specific information. Check those videos out, as well as go to their pages. They give very Agent Grateful has great insurance information contact on video that they just did recently. Watch those videos because they're telling you in real time what things that are happening in their lives and how it's affecting them and the
Because
finances that they're
just
spending.
just the example of you have you call, you find out if your U.S. insurance, if you work for an employer that provides permission for you to work outside the U.S., and they tell you yes, that hospital in that city in that country, within what, a month, they come back. No, it's not covered. So this is that is an ongoing, it's not a one and done. And these conversations, this kind of research isn't a one and done.
Mm-hmm.
It is a continuous.
Because as these countries continue to grow, as they continue to grow in dealing with the fact that we are moving into their countries,
Yeah, as immigrants,
they are making changes, advancements that are better for their country to protect their country, which isn't always better for you, which doesn't always better protect you. But a lot of times it's still a much better option than
where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm proud of the two people we were when we did that. Could this be our last Christmas?
Yeah.
Like putting into the universe, look, it is our heart's desire to look at having a different life. And asking, researching, investigating is better than doing nothing at all from my perspective.
Agreed.
I'm willing to get it wrong. And we're calling it not getting it wrong. We're talking about failing forward. It's a skill, the resiliency skills that we've, as parents, worked with our young people on. You need an extra heap and helping of resiliency skills in the move abroad space. Get in community. Y'all know I'm going to end on this. Every single conversation, get in community, because there are things that you don't even, like they say, when you don't, there are things that you know and there are things that you don't know. And when you're in community, you can learn from others. Many people are willing to share, even if they're just willing to share the people you can pay that can give you access to the information you can know. Because we want to share what we know with you. That's what we do on this channel. We've got I'm very proud to say, as a content creator, we've got from now till December. I'm so proud. We have from now until December completely planned out. We've got some really good conversations that can bring you forward in, hey, I'm at the concept phase, or I've gotten residency in one place. I've never thought about getting residency in more than one place. How are you considering those things? How are you moving in the world that gives you access to know there are a lot of places that can feel like home, that we're going to navigate together?
These conversations are outcroppings, direct result of our conversations with you. Conversations that we have from week to week, and we go, man, I didn't think about that. What's going on with that? You got to understand, anybody who's willing to tell on us will tell you when they interview with us, we hold them hostage for another 2 hours after
we're going to ask all the questions. We're going to make sure your questions get to the top of the heap.
Because there are things we go, man, I never thought about that. Wonder if that's going on. And if it's a question for us, it's a question for you. My mother was a teacher, and one of the things that teachers say all the time is ask the question, because if it's a question you have, somebody else has that same question. They may not have the courage to ask that question. And so we're trying to take the courage to ask these questions. We are not experts. Not trying to be, not trying to pretend to be. We are in the middle of a full conversation with you because we believe you are sitting here. Right here in the room. She didn't bring y'all no water, but y'all here with us. Okay. And we believe in you. And we believe in the information that you are providing to us. And we want to make sure this information is out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're telling them to check out our phone numbers.
Hey, I want to, there is, let's see. So hold on just a second. I'm going to scroll back. Yes. I'm going to tell you where I am right now. It's a dollars and cents, because the less I have to pay for my lifestyle, the sooner I can leave. And so when you can choose your target based on a variety of things, but if the money is what's going to get you out the door, make the money make sense. Can I choose a lifestyle that let's see. So Rashida Douse, when she said it the first time, she said, what you are spending on your mortgage could fund your whole life in another country. I was like, you mean? And I was like, okay. I don't want to just, I mean, if you have a house, you paying all the utilities, lawn care, termite certification. I mean, you're paying all of those things. The life that I want doesn't have to keep down this road of I will never dig myself out of it. That I said, this is the lie I will not buy anymore. Medical bills will no longer snatch all my dollars. Okay. Having the latest and greatest technology, furniture, clothes, those will no longer take my dollars. I want to put a cap on what goes out the door, and I can do that better in another country. Get out here and find out what your priorities are, and let's get started. Let's get out the door. Choose a date. Our Exodus Life said, I don't know. They bought plane tickets and were like, look, we either lose this money or we getting out the door. What is going to make the difference for you all? I'm so, so proud of this community that works together, gives together, is there to champion, tell us we can't hear you, or We want you to talk about this or that. That's what we want in the comments today. Thank you, everyone that put those statements, those comments, those questions in the chat, for being vulnerable and saying, this is where we are. We want to get out of here. Where do we start? Get in community. Let's do it, y'all. There's a whole world out there. There's a whole world out there.
We want to hear from you in your scouting trip. Tell us what it's like. Yes. Tell us what these scouting trips are like. We will be making contact with some of you all to talk to you on this channel, to see what life is, because we want to continue to be inspired.
Yep.
We're drilling it down. We're drilling it down. And we are having hard conversations. Because
I want to answer the question of where we're going by first quarter of 2024.
Yes, dear.
Because I will ask a million questions, as y'all can see. I will ask a million questions, but my job is to get out the door. And what is it going to take for us to do that? Do we have to have somewhere that we just have a soft landing while we regroup and get things? We might have the young man with us. I mean, like, I want, there's a time for questions and a time for action.
And we're moving into action.
And
we have to.
And we're trying to move into action in sync.
Yeah.
And knowing that we may be coming back to a lot of you all that have moved abroad. You should be asking, is this place still meeting our criteria? I watched a channel where a couple was doing that. They were in Portugal. They went, we mentioned them before. They landed in Portugal because of the pandemonium. And then realized when they took an inventory of what are the reasons, what are the country attributes that we're looking for in the place that we want to call home. Portugal served their emergency needs, but did not have the components as we came out of that time for the things that really brought them joy, and to expect that those things might change. So your right question today, keep asking each other and yourself. Thank you all.
Yeah, Alicia. We'll see you all soon. We're Herman and D. This is H&D Abroad. Every Saturday, 1 p.m. Central. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We'll be back.
Absolutely.
See you soon.
Bye for now.